Hello everybody, today I'm going to be talking about discrimination, that is disability discrimination. So roll on the intro and then we'll talk about one of the biggest issues or biggest challenges that I face on a day-to-day basis. So as I said, we're talking about disability discrimination, and as a black person who suffers from racial discrimination, having to deal with the double whammy of disability discrimination as well can make life quite hard. Sometimes I think to myself, okay, there's always got to be a silver lining. Obviously one of the silver linings I look at, because at the age of 5 I was paralysed from the neck down, so at least I'm no longer paralysed from the neck down, and I can actually walk, although I can't use a wheelchair. I'm basically just using a wheelchair because it's just easier for me just to do the recording, to basically move back and forth, and obviously again, it just gives me that bit of flexibility. But then also think about, okay, suppose I was a black disabled woman, or I was a black disabled woman but also Muslim. So so there's always various levels that you can go at, and I believe in life that just be thankful, and in terms of what you got, because things can always be worse. But anyway, that's enough of me rabbiting on about levels of disability. So what a lot of people don't realize is that people don't become disabled out of choice. You just don't say, okay, I'm going to enter into this world. Oh, I want to be disabled. I want to be stared at. I want to be mocked. I want to be marginalized by society. It doesn't happen that way. Also, what a lot of people don't seem to understand as well is that there are actually three different types of disability. You've got physical disability, which I've got. You've got a mental disability, and you've also got a learning disability as well. And I think there's a fourth category, because there are people with invisible disabilities. You wouldn't know they're disabled, but because their disability is actually invisible. But unfortunately, what happens with society is that everyone often gets lumped together. And thinking about my childhood, when I first went to my first school, I was sent to a school whereby children with learning difficulties, also with mental disabilities and physical disabilities, were all taught in the same classroom. And as I said in one of my previous videos, they actually did that to try to protect us. So again, different levels of disability, but unfortunately some people just think there's one disability, and if you're disabled, you're stupid. It's essentially that's it. Now, when you think about the UK, is that there's actually 11 million people in the UK that are actually disabled. So when you look at a population of over 60, or just over 60 million, that is a massive percentage. Also then think about disabled people worldwide as well. 20% of people, actually 20% of people worldwide are actually disabled. So in everyday life, people are bound to come across someone with a disability. They've probably got a friend, they've got a relative. People associate with disabled people on a daily basis. But despite that, in a recent survey, 67% of people are actually said to have a disability bias, which is actually quite scary when you think about that, which is 2/3 of the population that you come across have actually got some kind of bias. And that's probably the reason why that when I go to the airport, or if I'm on holiday, or if I'm in my wheelchair for any reason, and if I'm with my wife, sometimes you get people talking to my wife as opposed to talking to me. as if I can't talk, as if I haven't got a voice. And if you're a disabled person, you'll probably experience this yourself. Very, very frustrating. Also, I've actually noticed that if you're in a wheelchair, actually trying to get a taxi sometimes, those taxis just go, they basically fly past you. They'll actually go and pick up the person who hasn't got a disability, as opposed to you, who's sitting there in a wheelchair, just trying to flag them down. It doesn't work, does it? And then another one is strangers pretending not to see you. Have you actually been in those situations whereby, you know, you're pushing along in your wheelchair, because sometimes I use a wheelchair, sometimes I actually use a scooter, and people would deliberately cross the road just to avoid you. And that is that unconscious bias that we get. Now, one of the challenges that we face as disabled people is in employment. This is an area that I'm very, very passionate about, and this is the reason why I do work with the Department of Work and Pensions with the Disability Confidence Campaign to try to get disabled people into work. There was a survey in December 2017, and this was in the Independent, which is one of the broadsheets, one of the more, actually one of the most respected newspapers in the UK. 22% of employers actually admitted that they thought disabled people were crap. So they weren't even afraid to actually come out and say, I think disabled people are crap, so that's the reason why I'm not going to employ them, which is actually quite shocking. And some of the things they said was they thought disabled people were less productive. They also thought disabled people took more time off work. Another reason they gave was the lack of skills. But for me, again, you know, they say disabled people lack the skills, but if you don't give us the opportunities, then, you know, how are we going to get those skills? I'll talk about some of my experiences later. Also, a lot of them think that having a disabled person is not good for the business image. I thought to myself, okay, where's your social conscience when it comes to that? But most importantly, what really scares employers is that they think that if they hire a disabled person, that they can't get rid of them. It's almost like they think that a disabled person comes in, okay, I've now got a job for life, because you can't get rid of them. And these are just myths. These are just falsehoods. You know, when I was working for an organisation, I hardly took any time off work. The reason I didn't take any time off work, because I didn't want them to think it was because of my disability that I was taking time off work. I've had the same thing with people that I've employed as well. Is in that they take hardly any time off work. Their able-bodied counterparts sometimes take up to 2 or 3 times more time off work than this disabled person does. Being less productive, that's an absolute nonsense as well. Not being able to fire disabled people. Because we're part of the Disability Confidence Campaign, I proactively seek to employ disabled people in terms of wanting to give people an equal chance. And of all the disabled people that I've actually employed, I've only had to fire just one person. Everyone else actually left on their own accord. Some of them left because the job wasn't right for them. Some of them left because their disability had deteriorated, but not once was I in a sticky situation whereby I was having to struggle to get rid of somebody because of their disability. So as I said, I started to, when I say about this is very, very part-time. This is something I do about 3 or 4 times a year. But I started to give talks with the Department of Work and Pensions after the launch of the Disability Confidence Campaign back in 2013, when I got to meet David Cameron, who was the Prime Minister then. And I was one of 4 disabled entrepreneurs who were actually invited to actually meet him at the launch of the campaign. So part of what I do is I try to dispel this myth. I try I try to encourage, especially small businesses, because larger businesses, they've got corporate responsibility. So therefore, they've got a quota to fill. But small businesses, that is where the small businesses are the biggest employer, and that's where some of these issues lie, is because they don't understand, or they're ignorant to the fact of in terms of what benefits disabled people can actually bring to their business. So in terms of solutions, because people always ask me, okay, so what are the solutions? Well, all I can do is actually talk about my experience. When I see that, obviously when someone applies and I see that they're disabled, first of all, I never make any assumptions. Here's a very good example. I had a gentleman apply as for a web design job. And on his form, he says that he's registered blind. So I think to myself, how does this work? This person's blind, but they was also a web designer. So as opposed to just putting his CV in the bin, I gave him a ring. And he explained to me that what he does is that he just ups the resolution on his monitor, and he's got like a 30-inch monitor, and that he isn't actually totally blind, he's just partially blind. So again, it's just don't make assumptions. I've been to places whereby I'm in my scooter or in my chair and people think I can't walk. So if the employer's got like a couple of steps into their office, they might think, oh, okay, there's no point in me interviewing him because he won't be able to get in. So that's one. Never make assumptions. Number two is flexibility. Is that when I interview people, and especially as we know, obviously as you may know, is that sometimes with disabled people or any other disadvantaged group, it's the confidence. So if someone comes to me and they're looking a bit shaky and they're a bit unsure of themselves, I won't go through my rigorous interview process. I'll sit them down, have a cup of tea, have a biscuit, and then just have a gentle chat. And I've done that on actually quite a few occasions. I ended up actually employing those people because they then get to relax and they start to give you a lot more information as opposed to actually just being clear cut. Okay, there's only one way to actually interview. It doesn't work that way. Sometimes we need to give that bit of flexibility. Thirdly, remote working. As an organisation, because we've had a team in the Philippines back, this was back about 10 years ago. We've also actually got a back office in India, and we've had that back office now for over 10 years as well. So we're quite used to remote working. So one of the key benefits that we found is, especially when advertising for jobs, is actually to say to people, listen, you can work from home. So as a result, we've had numerous disabled people kind of apply to us and actually say, oh, how does this work? For instance, at the moment, my web developer, he's been with us for 6 months, but I've never met him. That is quite common for us. He's actually, I need to stress, he's actually disabled. He's registered disabled as well. But again, the reason, he's very, very talented, very, very clever. But the reason he couldn't get a job was because employers weren't ready to give him a chance. So if you are a disabled person, or if you are an ethnic minority, or from any other disadvantaged group, and you find it difficult to get a job, my advice is to keep on trying. Sometimes it's a numbers game. I remember when I was looking for a job, I had to basically keep on applying. I probably applied for 100 jobs. And to a certain extent, yes, it can be very frustrating. You can get disillusioned. I've had lots of people say the same thing to me. But you've got to keep on trying. You can never give up. Another option is, and a lot of disabled people actually start to go down this route, is to become self-employed. Think about something that you're good at and start to look for niches within the market. I'm actually going to do a session on this in terms of how you can spot business opportunities and ways in which you can actually set up your own business online. So it's my intention to keep my videos short, probably about 10-15 minutes. I know your time is precious. I really appreciate you obviously listening to me today. Obviously don't forget my mantra: stay positive, stay fighting, stay brave, stay ambitious, stay focused, stay strong. Mentality is everything. If you've liked what what you've seen in terms of what I've said, I'd ask you if you can give me a like. Also, as well, if you will obviously subscribe to my channel, that would be greatly appreciated. And I think that's my cue, that's my dog barking, so that's my cue to stop. Have a good day, and thank you very much.